Africa Climate Conversations, the podcast.
Hello, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to another edition of the Africa Climate Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Sophie Mbugwa. As I promised you the last time that we are going to talk about culture. Yes, culture. And understanding the role culture plays in conservation. And we're going to focus on the Lozi people, that is the people of the Barotse Floodplains in western Zambia. If you want to know more about the Barotse Floodplains, listen to the previous episode that we did, elaborated more on the floodplains and the threats and the risks and solutions. But today we are going to talk about culture, and we are joined by Syatyoka Victor, whom I'm going to let introduce himself in a minute. And we're going to talk about the Lozi people of the Barotse have lived in harmony with nature from respecting their culture. Thank you so much, Syatyoka, for joining us. Would you please introduce yourself?
Syatyoka Victor is my name. I work for National Heritage Conservation Commission here in Zambia. The National Heritage Conservation Commission is a statutory body that is charged with the responsibility to manage the conservation of cultural and natural heritage of the country.
Thank you. Can we talk about the culture of the Lozi people and the heritage?
The Lozi people are said to have been living in this Barotse Floodplain for over 400 years. And when they did arrive in this area, they realized that it was one area that gets flooded. And in most cases, communities find difficulties to live in areas that get flooded. So floods actually pose very serious hazard and risk to the livelihoods of the people. But that was not the case with the Lozi. When the Lozi people did realize that this place gets flooded, they had to develop certain mechanisms that would help them survive even in a flooded zone. And quickly, I'm going to just explain a few of the things that they used as safeguard mechanisms to respond to the flooding regime of this area. Firstly, they created canals, okay? With these canals, they were able to drain, the flood so that the water quickly recedes by allowing water moving all the time and very fast. The same canals were used for agriculture so that they are food secure. The canals, were used as irrigation channels so that some of them actually ran along the lip of the floodplain itself. The same canals were used as roadways from one village to the other. So we look at this ingenuity of this level of indigenous knowledge system as something that is very unique, of how people were able to adapt to an area that gets flooded without really destroying it, but just being able to make their lives and their livelihoods, effective in such an area. And then secondly, they were able to put up homesteads by basically just heaping soil. They create a platform on which they built houses and formed villages. Okay, so you are basically looking at people that have managed to create homesteads on top of an area that gets flooded. You are talking here about an activity that was started by people that have been here for 400 years ago. So as national heritage, we look at this level of, capacity by our ancestors, if you like, that have been able to respond to a natural phenomenon that actually ordinarily should have created a constraint in their livelihoods as something that is special. And then the Lozi people are also unique in terms of the liturgaship, about their cultural leadership. The Lozi people are ruled by a king. He's referred to as a litunga. Litunga basically means land. And land in this context means water, birds, fish, literally everything, the whole ecosystem. That's the meaning. Now, the story here is that at some point God was here in Barotse land, and due to activities that did not please him, that man was involved in, God decided to ascend to heaven with his wife. The wife, the Lord's God is called Nyambe, and the wife is called Nasilele. So when he did that, he didn't want to leave the Lord's people without a leader. So he appointed amongst them a leader who, in this case, is the Litunga. So there is a connection between God, the creator of everything, and the king of the Barotse people, who is the Litunga. This explains why there are, again, a number of cultural activities and intricacies that define and constitute the Litungaship. One of the things is that the Lozi kings, the Litungas, are believed that they don't die. They just pass on to the other world. And before a Lozi king dies, he would choose where he would be buried. And once he chose that place and he passed on, they would build a village there, and he would be buried right at the center of it to show that he is still in control, and the village is built around it. He is not left alone. There are people they refer to as the Ngomboti. The Ngomboti are the priests, basically, that interface with the late king on behalf of the people. And it is believed that they receive information from the king who would have died, and they bring this information to the people. In terms of calamities, these, royal burial sites act as temples where a number of rituals, cultural activities are carried out just to make sure that whatever problems, whatever pestilences, or indeed calamities that people are facing are subdued and life comes back to normal. And if a person was to ascend to become the new Litunga, he would have to pass through all the past kings, to gain passage and acceptance to become the new king. So in that way, it is believed that lost kings don't die because they still play a role in the lives of the living. They contribute a great deal to the lives of the living. And it is by culture and design, cultural design, that the royal burial sites of the Barotse kings are all on this same floodplain that you are seeing. So they are not buried in the upland, in the forests. No, they have to be buried right here on. And perhaps that's the reason why sometimes you hear people saying that the Barotse people are the water people. So it's like there is this nexus over a period of time, period of about 300 to 400 years, that has been created between the culture of the lost people and their natural environment. The relationship that they have with the water, the relationship they have with animals, the relationship they have with trees have helped them in a large way to conserve this place without actually being inimical to it, without destroying it. A very wealthy traditional management system is what the lost people have used for about 400 years of their existence on the floodplain.
Fantastic. Let's delve a little bit deeper into that traditional system that has enabled them to live in harmony with this floodplain, the waters, basically the upper areas where there's trees and everything. That traditional system, expound to us, that has actually enabled them to live very much in harmony with this.
The traditional system that has helped them is deeply connected to the fact that the leader of the Lozi is said to have been left for them by God. And the title that is given the Litunga, which means the earth, which means the land, shows that there is a relationship between the creator himself and the Litunga. So the manner in which they treat, the Litunga, who is the land, the manner in which they treat the land itself is very connected to the Litungaship. It's very connected to the fear of God. You discover that in the traditional management system, they have a number of ways and means that have assisted them to ensuring that they respect the land itself and everything that is on it, because this land is directly connected to them or created for them by God, which God has not left them without a leader. He's given them a litunga who is in charge and is holding this land in trust. So the level of respect that they have from that cultural spiritual connection between them and Nyambe, God, is very strong. At some point, you discover that the Lost people use a number of ways to respect land, to respect fish, to respect water, to respect trees. You have, for instance, some trees that people have been told you cannot cut this tree because it is a royal tree. It belongs to the litunga. The litunga was given to them by Nyambe, God himself. Okay, and so the linking of certain resources such as trees, such as fish, forests to the litunga has helped the Lost people to fearfully revere such places, respect them, and has helped the Barotse people to, treat these resources with reverence, with respect, and that they would not allow anyone to do anything without their approval. So for the period that we are looking at here, 300 to 400 years, we still have perhaps some of the best forests in this country. We still have some of the pure and best fish species here on this same floodplain. We still have a number of wildlife, for instance. Why? Because there is a cultural connection which is also spiritual between people and God himself. The Barotse people in the traditional management system and practices have also at some point introduced what you call locally misha. These are basically laws and regulations that try to respond to ensuring that the conservation and management of the resource base is taken care of, not for individuals, not for private people, but for a collective community. So these are rules literally that they have put across to ensuring that their people follow them, and those that would not follow these rules would actually face punitive ramifications, punitive measures would be meted upon them for not obliging to these rules which are believed to have come from God through their king and to the people. For instance, when it comes to the fishery, the Lost people would tell you that you will not use illegal methods to start with. You are not going to use specific tools to catch fish because maybe such tools would be inimical to their aspirations of ensuring that the fish stocks are conserved. So in that case, they were able only to catch big fish over a period of time, and then they let the smaller fish to grow and continue to multiply, thereby ensuring that their livelihoods and food security was guaranteed in terms of the fish industry. When it comes to wildlife, for instance, there were laws that did not allow people to kill an animal that is pregnant, or indeed an animal that had a calf, because then kings would actually ask people, if you were killed yourself and your child was left, how would you feel? So there are all these set of laws and regulations that created the custom, the value system around the traditional management of the Barotse people.
I'm listening to you speak and I'm thinking it's a culture that has spanned years and years, way before the whole issue of conservation concept as we know it right now. So I'm wondering, in terms of from your experience and from working with these people, how important is this African cultural spiritualism important for conservation and management of such water bodies?
It is extremely, extremely important. We are talking about a people, for instance, that basically did appreciate nature, not less than 300 years ago. The Lozi people were able to locate one of the wildlife sanctuaries. It's actually now a national park, the Floodplains National Park. The kings then, including the first Litunga, Mbomuyunda, was able to go to that place, appreciate the wildlife there, and put in safeguard mechanisms that ensure that that area continued to blossom in terms of the wildlife. After he had died, the next Litunga also tried to augment on it. During the rulership of King Lewanika, he even said, okay, now we are going to move a step further. He appointed certain clans of his people and asked them to build villages around the Floodplains National Park. Why? Because it was a beautiful place. And kings and people would go there to appreciate the wildlife that is there, the birds, the different animals that are there. So you have a people that historically have a concept of conservation, a concept of not wanting to destroy, but wanting to ensuring that they grow together, live together with their land in a manner that they create a nexus, a symbiotic relationship without detriment. Like I did indicate, Western Province is the only province in Zambia that has this hardwood, first-class kind of forest services. We have the teak, it is found here. You have the rosewood, it is found here. And you would wonder, how is it that the trees here have survived all this while, when in other provinces, these trees have already been harvested a long, long time ago. They are no longer there. But here we still have them. It is because of this African cultural, spiritual connectivity that the people themselves have allowed themselves to be shaped by their environment, and they have in response also shaped the environment where both the environment and themselves have created a relationship which is not detriment to either of them.
Interesting.
So it is really important. And we have actually had discourse and dialogue with people that, well, look, it is clear that in most cases, floods do create problems for communities. Once there's a flood, communities complain a lot. But here is a people, the Barotse people themselves, that were able to work out safeguard mechanisms to ensuring that this flood no longer appeared to be a hazard, a risk to their livelihood. But instead, they were able to manage this flood in a manner that it gave them an advantage. So they have developed basically adaptation mechanisms to the natural environment without them destroying the environment, without them doing anything that otherwise undermine the ecosystem. And I think this is the way it's supposed to be. I have on many occasions during some of these dialogue meetings indicated to the colleagues, especially those that have a very contemporary way of looking at conservation, that, well, we can also tap from the indigenous knowledge systems that our people have lived with over a period of time. You have come with your program, and here is a people that have been able to manage the flood arrangement. I mean, the only people maybe in the world that when the flood is at the peak, when they are supposed to be weeping and mourning the loudest, to them, that is a time to celebrate. And you see them, led by the Litunga himself, from Lealui to the other palace there in Limulunga. You see them beating drums, and they are happy, they are dancing, including their animals. Their animals also do the transhumance. They also move from the flood zone to the upland in a very fashionable manner, in a very picturesque manner, in a very touristic manner. And when that happens, when the Kwomboka takes place, we actually have tourists, not from just locally from the province, or indeed not only from Zambia, not only from Africa, you have them from all over the world, because to them this is unique. And indeed, even to us, it is a unique thing of how people could just create a relationship with a flood, and instead of complaining, they take the flood to them when there is no flood. If, for instance, due to climate change, we don't have enough water and the flood does not take place, it is a very sad situation in Barotse land. It's a very sad thing for the Barotse people, because they always look up to the flood to come, not that they should cry, but that they should celebrate with the whole world of how they have been able to conquer the flood by way of putting, cultural mechanisms and create this nexus. They enjoy it, and I guess the flood also enjoys. If it had a word to explain, it would say, well, these are the only people that are able to smile when we come. The rest of you guys, run away and complain a lot about us. Land in Barotse land is always not looked at as a personal property. It is always viewed that it belongs to the people. It belongs to everyone. And because of that, if in an event that I bought a piece of land and then I decided to leave any of the areas that I would have bought from this particular place, land would still revert to the Barotse people. I can sell my investment on that piece of land, but I'm not allowed to sell the land. I have to hand it back to the owners. So that is how they deal with land. We will have communal areas. You are aware that the Lozi people are also cattle keepers. They keep a lot of domestic animals. So there are certain areas that have been allocated for communal activities. Okay, even just within the homesteads, you have the Patelo, for instance. These are areas that are open for use by every member of the society, of the community. These are places where meetings of common interest take place, or indeed meetings between people that are interested. They take place on the Patelo. You have again a number of the land tenure system. You have what they call Katongo Kashangwe. That is land that can be given to your family permanently. You could be living out there in Europe or in another country. You should just know that your land is here. Even if everyone else died and only one person remained alive, that whole piece of land that was given to your family will still stand as such. It would have to take another process to redistribute this piece of land. That only can happen if you members of that family no longer show interest in the land, or you go and report yourselves that you have no interest. Maybe you are not coming back. Maybe the leaders can consider giving that land to another people that would be interested. And then even lagoons, this is a flood zone. It has a lot of lagoons. Even lagoons are given to families. Families are the ones that are taking care of these lagoons. But that is not to say that other members of the community could not fish from these lagoons. It must be understood that the giving of lagoons, for instance, or indeed forests to specific members of the community is but just a traditional mechanism of assigning responsibilities to specific people, to specific families, to undertake on behalf of the traditional leaders, so that if it is time to harvest, services and resources from this, always a communal way of doing it. If it's a lagoon, they would set a date when which villagers would be allowed to go and fish, and then another date would be set for another village, another date. They will be getting fish from that particular lagoon, which that specific family has been given to take care of. If it is a forest, it would be just like that. Yeah. So we are saying that this, cultural safeguarding mechanisms where you share the roles, you give each other responsibilities to take care of some of, community resources on behalf of the community. Okay, but then ultimately, invite the community when it is ripe to come and harvest what you have been. This, I think, is the way it's supposed to be, and we can learn a lot from such indigenous cultural systems in conservation, that they give us the responsibility, they give an opportunity of communality, an opportunity of sharing roles and ensuring that we also respect each other's roles. On this floodplain, we have bird sanctuaries. So even for bird sanctuaries, there are individuals and people that are actually given to ensuring that they take care of these bird sanctuaries so that the birds flourish. These are traditional management systems that have been used for a period of 300 to 400 years. Okay, it's not a new phenomenon. It's an old traditional phenomenon of people apportioning and assigning amongst themselves responsibilities of how best they could take care of nature, how best they could take care of the ecosystem, and ensuring that they symbiotically live with the ecosystem without damaging it. There is also another level of just, private property. You are also free to grow in accumulating wealth, you as an individual, you as a family. So you find that if you move around, you have people that have a lot of cattle, more than the others. It is also allowed. But we are saying that we have communal areas, grazing pastures, where these animals would go. If you have 2 heads of cattle, you are allowed to go and graze your cattle in those areas. If you have 100, you have 1,000, you are equally allowed to. So it is different tiers and levels of cultural, societal cohesion that allows commonness, allows unity amongst the people, but also cultural aspect that respects individual aspirations, individuals' ability to accumulate personal wealth for themselves and their families.
Fantastic. The question is, we seem to have lost this particular type of Africanism in terms of culture and conservation. In your opinion, where did we go? Where is Africa?
There are a number of things that have actually eaten away the African civilization, the way we understand it, like when it comes to areas of conservation. The Barotse people are one of the best examples you can give that have managed to live in the environment that actually presents a constraint, a hazard, a floodplain, but they have been able to understand the ecosystem very well, and that they're part of the ecosystem and have implemented these cultural aspects to respond to ensuring that conservation and management of the environment is done, and that it is key in their lives, key for their survival, and that it is incumbent upon them to respond positively to this environment. But there are a number of things. The world evolves. Part of the challenges that we are now struggling with that have made us lose some of our deep-rooted cultural safeguarding mechanisms, including intangible cultural heritage. You remember, sometimes they would just use proverbs, sometimes they would just use, certain stories, to cut on indiscriminate behavior towards the environment. They would tell you, for instance, that that tree belongs to the king. So it would be like, if you're cutting that tree, you are basically killing the king. So, but due to a number of things that have come with change, these have unfortunately worked against conservation mechanisms. There is loss of respect for African leadership. There is loss of respect to the rules and laws that we are able to make. This time we have new laws that have been put across by states or countries that we seem to pay more attention to than the local rules and regulations that actually respond in the immediate to what can threaten our existence, and indeed what can cause us to prosper. For instance, the creation of canals. We have about 3 1,000 kilometers of canal, a maze of them, canal networks that are all over this floodplain. But that thing was done freely. People just used to give themselves maybe 12 days to work on the canals because they knew it was something that was beneficial to them. It was something that would be beneficial for their future, for their agricultural activities, for their fishery arrangement, and for the hydrological, drainage system that they had wanted to put across. But later on, after independence, for instance, there were ideas that it was no longer fashionable to work for free, because now we had a country that would provide resources to pay for people that were willing to do the canal system. So the free, voluntary service that the people were giving, it was more or less like immediately cut off, because now there was an emolument towards doing any sort of work. That was African. That is the African spirit, that you are able to give your best, you are able to give your food, you are able to give your labor, you are able to give your assistance to anyone, to anything, to yourself even, for nothing, really. The benefit is exactly what you'd get out of what you have. Sometimes it's just a spiritual edification that you are able to work together as one. But like I indicated, after we got independence, there was, a new way of doing things, that those that would do such things needed to be paid. And because there was money then, people were paid. But at some point, the economy went down and people could not be paid. But then they had been introduced to money, and so they started resisting voluntary work. So those are some of the problems that we are facing. Right away, we have several, maybe thousands of the kilometers of the same canals that are clogged, and there is no one who is doing that, because they are waiting maybe for a project to come and give them some stipends for them to do the work, or maybe they are waiting for a way of getting wages out of. But hey, this is supposed to help them. This is their traditional culture that actually is supposed to improve their livelihoods, that is supposed to secure food, and so on and so forth. So you also have religion. Religion is also one of those areas, I think, that has destroyed a lot of African spirit in a lot of ways. Some of these activities that we would do as Africans required a bit of maybe rituals, or there are areas that are known to be historical. Okay, there are areas that are linked with our ancestors, but religion has come in such a manner that anything that is ancestral, anything that is historical in the African sense, is perceived as containing something that is evil. And because of that, and we have most of our people turning to be converts to this new religion, and so they have decided to abstain from living the true African cultural spirit in their lives. So those are some of the difficulties that we have.
Can we ever get it back?
We just have to get back. We just have to get back. And I think the world is quickly realizing that we can't just keep on, becoming new every time. There are still a lot of wealth in terms of indigenous knowledge system, local, knowledge systems that people have, that they used, and that can still be used today to ensuring that issues that we are facing are curtailed. We have climate change. If you spoke to one of the old ladies here, or indeed old people, they would tell you that they would know. They would look at the weather patterns and they would tell that there would be rain, or the rain will come late, or the rain will go early, and so they would prepare themselves. Do we need to get this fruit and keep this fruit so that when this rain does not come, we are able to feed ourselves from ABC? So it was a whole complete, safeguarding mechanism that people had learned over a period of time, and that was real to the situation that they were facing every day. So we just have no option but to create a hybrid of what can be done in the modern science, but also what we can pick from the cultural science that we have lived on for a period of time.
Fantastic. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
so much. I sincerely appreciate.
You're welcome.
And that was Syatyoka Victor from the National Heritage Conservation Commission in Zambia, who was talking to us about African spiritualism and how the Lozi people of the Barotse Floodplains have used it to live in harmony and protect these particular floodplains and the biodiversity that exists in it. Remember, you can access this podcast, this episode, and many other episodes that we have produced over the years through our website, www.africaclimateconversations.com. And you can also access it using Spotify through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, and Google Podcasts, and many, many, many other podcast channels that you access your other podcasts from. Do not forget to leave us a comment, and remember that you can reach us through email using info@africaclimateconversations.com. Until next time, kwaheri, asante sana for joining us. My name is Sophie Mbogwa.
Africa Climate Conversations. The podcast.